In Section 2, we will examine global configuration and basic networking. This section has 3 parts to it. In the first part, we'll cover the global system configuration using the setup wizard in Web Configurator, followed by adding and configuring our network interface controllers. And the last lesson will be setting DHCP and static IP options for our wide area and local area networks. In this lesson, we'll cover global system configuration. Our system configuration goals for this lesson will be to complete the pfSense setup wizard, apply system updates, and configure global options. So now we actually have pfSense installed, and that's a great thing. That was the easiest installation of a super complicated, super amazing operating system that I've ever performed, and we have to give them major credit for the strides they've made in streamlining the installation of pfSense. So now we're going to boot up our Ubuntu instance, and all I've done in here is visited the previous builds of pfSense and set the local address, the home page, and that will mean that we need to accept the self-signed SSL certificate that pfSense is installed with. That is not actually a problem, so we can go ahead and just go to the Advanced tab and select that, confirm the security exception. Then we'll be presented with the login screen. On the login screen, we use the default login of admin and password of pfSense, all lowercase, at which time we'll be presented with the pfSense setup wizard, which is a beautiful addition to the web configurator, which pretty much completes the super easy installation. Now you'll notice that pfSense gives us nice warnings from time to time, and one of those warnings is that we have the default password set. That will be taken care of during the installation. We're just going to go ahead and skip through the first couple screens. Feel free to take your time, and you can read all of those screens when you perform the install yourself. We're just going to move through here with defaults. However, you can choose to disable your DNS server from the local network that's automatically assigned being used, and say assign a public DNS server for your virtual networks that connect to pfSense to use. We're just going to go ahead and use the default. We'll go into setting the time. We're going to leave the defaults there. Your hardware clock should be set to UTC, and whether or not you decide to set your software to your local time or keep in UTC is a matter of personal preference. On servers, it's usually good to leave everything in UTC and let the end user software pick the time zone. And now we're going to configure the wide area network interface, and you can change it from DHCP to something else right now if you like. However, we're going to leave everything on DHCP for now. You could set a host name here if you like. We will come back later to take care of changing it to a static IP address and covering some of what those issues entail. The next section configures the Lan interface, and we're going to accept the defaults there. And then we're going to change the admin password and go on to the next screen. It's going to reload with all of our changes. Now, an important point to note here is that if you made any networking changes and click reload, then you're going to have to apply those networking changes probably to Ubuntu or your local net. So that's why we kept with all the defaults, so that we can make the installation as easy as possible. We're going to check for updates. It gives us the option to switch to the experimental development branch, which would be good if you were working on packages for pfSense or for FreeBSD. However, we're going to stick with the stable version. On occasion, in working with VirtualBox, you'll see that you may have to refresh the page to get some of the network connections to click, as well as you may possibly get some crashes out of FreeBSD that you don't normally get if it's installed on bare metal, because it's a very complicated kernel compared to what Linux is doing. Not more or less complicated than Linux kernel, just different. And so we're going to let this run through the upgrade process, and you can see it gives us a full account of what's happening as it goes. It takes about 90 seconds. You can flip over to the VirtualBox with pfSense, and you'll actually see the machine is rebooting, and then we'll come back in here to Ubuntu because it does literally take about 87 seconds to reboot on my machine. We'll log back in using our new password. Now we have a lot of network configuration to do to set up for static IPs, change the local network address, and create our firewall rules, which will allow all of our network interface cards to communicate with the internet and basically give us our base fully functional virtual network with 3 virtual LANs and a wide area network connection, all running on pfSense. So you can take a look here at the basic Pfsense Dashboard, and that will give you a nice overview of the complete system. And down here at the bottom, you can see that we have our wide area network with our DHCP assigned address, and then our local area network with the pfSense default of 192.168.1.1.